Hey everyone, welcome back to another edition of Metcalf's Movie Journal. This is the show where I do quick reviews for the movies that I watch, give them a score out of 10, and then add them to my list. So let's see what movie I'm reviewing today. On June 11th, I watched Margin Call, which came out in 2011. This was a very dry, boring, almost textbook-style look at what happened to a single investment firm leading up to the 2008 financial collapse. It definitely doesn't help either that I'd already seen The Big Short multiple times, and even though Margin Call came out 4 years earlier, The Big Short just did everything so much better. I've also seen so many other documentaries and news stories and other stuff on top of all that, so seeing another movie about it at this point feels unnecessary. Still, simply for the fact that it came out before The Big Short, I probably shouldn't knock it too much for originality, but the final product was far too much like a documentary for my tastes, and comparing it to The Big Short only makes Margin Call's flaws that much more noticeable. On one hand, it's clearly filled with acting talent, from Zachary Quinto playing the young genius who sees it all coming, to Kevin Spacey and Jeremy Irons playing off each other beautifully in some one-on-one scenes. But on the other hand, no matter how good their performances were, they were never able to keep it from being so very boring, because of how dry the material inherently is. Maybe it's the fiscal nature of everything, or something in the way it was directed, but this movie just makes what Adam McKay was able to do with The Big Short that much more impressive, because it really should be an inherently boring story. I don't think anyone goes to the movies hoping for a lesson in accounting. One of the biggest problems with Margin Call was the choice to keep the story so small and tight, and only ever vaguely hint at what the consequences would be on a greater scale outside the walls of the building. It made it so difficult to get invested in any real way, especially if the hope was for us to care for these characters, who so clearly don't care about the world around them. I get that their aloofness to their actions is part of the point, but the movie still needed a voice for the average person to relate to, because otherwise it just ended up feeling like this one did, like a bunch of facts being rattled off by some very interesting and smart people, just to inform, with no real desire to entertain. I get that it's a difficult thing to balance the entertainment value with the educational element, especially in a story like this, but there needs to be at least a little Hollywood razzle-dazzle to keep me happy. It might be a mean thing to say, but I think if you really love this movie, you might just be a bit of a boring person. And that's fine too, the world very much needs accountants, but I don't think most people would love a movie made for accountants, which is basically what this is. I still need to watch Inside Job, but thankfully that should be the last movie I have to watch based on the same 2008 financial collapse. Because I get that it was a huge moment in time, but 3 movies about it seems a bit much when you think about the countless stories from history to choose from that I'm sure I still know absolutely nothing about. It's a good thing for this movie that I value acting and script as highly as I do, because on story, directing, and overall entertainment value, this one is definitely lacking. I'd be curious to see what other film critics would score this one, because I imagine they would want to give it a good score. But if they actually had to make one complete list like I've done with all their movies, they wouldn't want to put it above the number of movies they'd have to in order to give it that score. It's an inherently interesting case study that way, because in an isolated vacuum, it might seem like a good movie, but compared to every other movie ever made, it's just plain boring. So I ended up giving it a 4 out of 10, and it landed at number 1108 on my list, putting it right here, in between Unhinged and Under Siege. And as always, thanks for watching. Hey everyone, thanks for watching another edition of Metcalf's Movie Journal. Be sure to click like and subscribe for new videos every week, and if you have a movie that you really want me to watch, be sure to drop me a comment.